so warm and insightful. Were you in my eyes? And I was sure the rightful guardian of my life.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Greer Rychek, and I'm the proud superintendent of the Hyde Park Central School District. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Natalie Merchant, Senator and Michelle Gipson, and all the representatives from the Grace Smith House. I am going to ask and remind those of you who have come in a few minutes late that in order to really fully see the screen, please come on down close, and if you're sitting in the side wings, your vision will be a little bit limited, so I'll give everybody the opportunity to move one more time if they want. If you're comfortable where you are, please stay, but better to know where you'll have a better viewing position. So I am going to turn this over to Cammie Jones, the program director at Grace Smith House. But before I do so, I sincerely want to thank the Grace Smith House for reaching out to our school district to host this event on this very poignant and important topic. Very much too close to home for many of our families, and we hope that you will fully embrace this program in an awareness frame of mind and do all that you can to help prevent against domestic violence. So with that, I will turn it over to Cammie Jones. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rychek. I really appreciate that. So good evening, everyone. I'm Cammie Jones, the Prevention Coordinator at Grace Smith House, and I would like to thank all of you for taking out the time in your schedules on tonight and being willing to support our program, Breaking the Cycle. Tonight, you will be a part of a thought-provoking, interactive, and engaging workshop that will provide the tools and language to break the cycle and keep your communities and families safe. But before we get into our program, I would first like to thank the several individuals who assisted us in making sure that this program would be a success. First, if there are any elected officials that are here tonight, I would like for you to please stand or raise your hands. Thank you so much. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting our cause. Also, we would like to thank Senator Terry Gipson, who is the co-sponsor of the event, and his staff who are also present. We would also like to thank Mid-Hudson Subaru, also a co-sponsor. Natalie Merchant, songwriter and advocate. We would also like to thank the Marr family, County Executive Marcus Molinaro, Superintendent of Hyde Park Central School District Schools, Greer Rychek. We would also like to thank the Hyde Park Central School District Administration and their board for all of their help with this program. We would also like to thank Mr. Stephen Hughes, which is actually going to be recording this program and will be able to provide this for those that weren't able to attend. We also would like to thank Franklin D. Roosevelt High School staff, Grace Smith House staff and the board, the Peace Group, who are the students that are right outside the door at our tables. We also would like to thank United Way, New York State Office of Children and Family Services, Dutchess County Print Shop, all of our volunteers tonight, and lastly, we would like to thank the parents, students, and service providers who are in attendance tonight. There is no way we would be able to provide such an event without the countless hours of support from all of you, so let's give you all a round of applause. Thank you. So here we are, here for Breaking the Cycle. And we are here tonight because of Senator Gipson, who viewed this video, specifically shelter, in Ulster County this winter and wanted to make sure that we bring this back to our community. Senator Gipson has strongly supported legislation that strengthens accountability for offenders and supports the safety of victims. He has availed himself to hear about the complex issues faced by victims in our community and work with us whenever possible to improve conditions for survivors. Most recently, he has supported initiatives to prevent teen dating violence, which includes this program right here, Breaking the Cycle. We are thankful for his leadership and support towards fighting the cause against domestic violence. By a round of applause, I welcome to the stage Senator Terry Gipson.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here tonight. I think you'll find it quite educational and enjoyable, and I see the mic is now working. Okay. As they had mentioned, my wife and I saw a similar program in Kingston last year, and I felt that it was something that we really needed to bring over to my Senate district. As we know, domestic violence is an ongoing issue, and when we see problems like this in the community, it's very important that we step forward and do everything we can as elected officials to improve the situation. That's why during my short term, I have worked so hard to secure funding for the new Child Abuse Prevention Center here in Poughkeepsie, and well, not here, but down the road a little bit. And I also am happy to have voted to pass legislation that takes firearms out of the hands of those who commit acts of domestic violence. One of the main things that we are all working on as elected officials is trying to find ways to make our economy stronger, and it's very difficult to do that when you have a situation where certain members of a family might not feel as if they're living a quality of life that allows them to grow and be independent and really reach their dreams. To be successful and to be competitive globally, we need to make sure that every single individual in New York State and throughout this country feels safe. Feels safe in their homes, feels safe in their schools, feels safe in their jobs. Domestic violence is one of those things that makes people feel unsafe. It threatens them. It's unacceptable. We all know that. And tonight, what we're here to talk about is a way to break that cycle. To break that cycle so that everyone feels safe and secure, so that we can all grow and be the best that we can possibly be as individuals. So I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. I'll be joining you again for an awards ceremony after this. I want to now introduce a partner that has worked with us so well in the last 22 months. We got to know Grace Smith House and the Children's Home, who I know is represented here tonight, by working on a new law. It's called Rosie's Law. If you hadn't heard about Rosie's Law offers protections to those who have been victimized by domestic violence abusers. It's a law that we are hoping to go back next year and get passed. It's an important law, and we will certainly find ways to talk to you more about that in the future. But right now, I'd like to introduce Renee Fillette, the Executive Director of Grace Smith House. So please give her a hand.
Hi. Just a few housekeeping notes. There are 2 bathrooms that are located outside of the door and to the right. And the film that we're showing tonight is a difficult film. It's certainly not a safe film for very young viewers, but it's a difficult film for many people. So we have counselors available in room 174. And then we also have 5 counselors here from the Hyde Park School District. We have Don Hurley, Mandy LaLuna, Ashley Veach, Regina Hernandez, and Pam Atkins. If you could just raise your hand so people could see you. Available right here if needed. So I just want to start with a few facts about domestic violence just to ground us in why we're here tonight. In the United States, every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted or beaten. Around the world, at least 1 in every 3 women has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused in her lifetime. And most often, the abuser is a member of her own family. It's the leading cause of injury to women, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. Studies suggest that up to 10 million children witness some form of domestic violence annually. And men who as children witnessed their parents' domestic violence were twice as likely to abuse their own wives than sons of nonviolent parents. Nearly 1 in 5 teenage girls who has been in a relationship said a boyfriend threatened violence or self-harm if presented with a breakup. And every day in the U.S., more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands and boyfriends. For the past 33 years, Grace Smith House has responded to this need. We have 24-hour crisis hotlines, we have emergency shelters, we have legal advocacy, we have support groups, we have counselors, specialized counselors for children. Each year, we serve over 1,300 victims in our family court project. These are adults seeking orders of protection for themselves and safety for their children. And our police departments work very, very hard in our county to protect victims from domestic violence. But everything we do combined, it's not enough. And it really never could be enough. There just aren't enough resources to meet all of the need. And in fact, most victims, between 55 and 95% of victims, never call for help in the first place. The vast majority of offenders are never held accountable. They continue to abuse their children, they continue to abuse their victims, and they move on to new victims. Victims suffer in silence, and the impact of domestic violence on children exposed lasts a lifetime. So after decades of working towards ending domestic violence, it became very clear that we needed to follow the path to the beginning. We needed to start at a point when the behaviors were emerging and there's still time to change the path. And we needed to shift from a culture that ignores the signs of abuse to one that rejects these behaviors of perpetrators. Today, our prevention team, the 3 young women you'll meet tonight, Cammie, Maxine, and Christina, reach 10,000 students a year within Dutchess County. They launched a social media survey that, taken by Dutchess County teens within its first 2 months, 2,000 teens participated. Over 50% of those teens reported they're already in dangerous relationships. So the team needed to follow the path back even further. And they learned about the intersection between bullying behaviors and emerging dating violence. We learned from studies that people who engage in bullying were 7 times more likely to engage in physical dating violence in high school. And this we thought this is where it starts. But the more we learn, we understand that the intersection goes all the way back to early childhood with roots in child maltreatment and exposure to family violence. Our model of intervention and prevention is consistent through all stages. We begin with bullying, we move in the middle school ages, and then we move into teen dating violence in high school. And this is what is enabling social change in our community. So tonight, I want to introduce to you our teen dating violence prevention workers. We have with us Christina Davidson and Maxine Valencia, who will talk to you about the cycle of violence.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? I'm Christina Davidson. I'm the Community Education Counselor for Grace Smith House.
Good evening, everyone. I am Maxine Valencia, and I am the Prevention Educator at Grace Smith House. And with the Violence Prevention Program, we go into all the middle schools and high schools and talk about violence prevention. So we want this full circle of education in our community. So we begin with educating your students or your children, and then we begin to educate our school administration, like our teachers and guidance counselors. And then we even educate our parents because we believe in this full cycle of education. And we provide engaging and interactive workshops. So in middle school, we focus on this peer violence known as bullying. And then later on, we focus on intimate partner violence known as teen dating violence. And we use this curriculum called MVP, which stands for Mentors in Violence Prevention. And what's so great about this curriculum is that it focuses on this bystander lens. So maybe this violence isn't happening in your life, but the chances of it happening to someone that you know is very high. So this evening, we're going to be focusing on these two forms of violence. So this first one, the peer violence known as bullying, and then later on, teen dating violence. So bullying is becoming an important issue that is affecting our youth today. Many children are afraid to go to school every single day because they are scared of being bullied. Reports indicate that 71% of students say they have witnessed bullying in their schools. When bystanders intervene, bullying stops 57% of the time. And only 1 in 10 victims will notify their parents about bullying or cyberbullying. And when students experience bullying, they are more likely to find their peer actions helpful. So this research really demonstrates how common this is for our youth today. Your children, your students are very likely to experience bullying or cyberbullying. And they're finding their peer actions to be extremely helpful. So as a prevention program, we want to create active bystanders in our community. We want them to have the tools and the language to engage in healthy relationships with their peers, but then also in the future to engage in healthy relationships with their intimate partners. So that's our goal as our prevention program. So I want to ask you all, what is bullying? When you hear this word, how do you define it? Okay, so making fun of another person. Thank you. Threatening? Yeah. Yeah, so threatening violence, threatening language. Good. Right there? Okay, so hurting someone, maybe that a physical piece. Yeah? Good. Thank you. So bullying is a learned behavior. And a learned behavior is a behavior that you pick up from somewhere. You're not born with this genetic DNA to bully another person, but just like everything in life, you learn, and then you model that behavior. So think about it. When we're young, right, we learn how to walk, we learn how to eat, right, and eventually we learn how to talk. And it's the same thing with bullying. If you're seeing this violence in your home, maybe you begin to normalize that, right? And then you do power and control with your peers. And it is when a person or group tries to hurt and control another person in a harmful way. And for it to be considered bullying, it has to have 3 defining characteristics. So the first, it has to be deliberate. So it's a bully's intention to harm another person. It's done on purpose and it's a choice. 2, it's repeated. A bully targets the same person again and again. So it's not just one time, but maybe it's 5, 10, 15 times. It's over and over again, repeated. 3, it's about this power imbalance. So that bully chooses victims that he or she perceives as being vulnerable. So when I say this word vulnerable, what do you think of? Innocent, thank you. Quiet, back there? Weak, exactly. So someone who's weak, maybe quiet, an easy target, someone who's maybe alone and won't defend themselves, right? But as human beings, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. But that bully is looking for someone around the room in which they target their weak spot on purpose over and over again. So bullying takes on 3 forms. What are they? Verbal, so using our words. Physical, using our hands and feet to touch another person. Good job. One more. Cyber, good. And this is an example of this form because I'm not touching you and I'm not talking to you, but I'm bullying you, and we call that indirect bullying. So let's break this down a little bit. Physical. What are some examples of physical bullying? Fights, pushing. Anything else? What? Okay, ignoring. Yeah, damaging property, exactly, physical, right? So maybe I'm touching you, and maybe I'm doing that by punching you, hitting you, maybe I'm throwing you into a locker, right? Or maybe I'm damaging your items. So maybe I'm vandalizing your locker, right? Maybe writing all over your binder, destroying your property. Physical. Thank you.
So verbal, using your words to bully other people. What do you think that looks like? What are some examples? Putting somebody down, absolutely. What else? Yeah. Hurting their feelings, right? Doing it on purpose, saying things that are gonna put them down or make them feel weaker. And if you hear this same thing over and over and over, you believe it. Anything else? Sarcastic humor, absolutely. Jokes, right? A joke is when I and you think something is funny, not when I am making fun of you to make myself laugh. Absolutely. And then the last piece, indirect. You're not touching them, you're not talking to them, so how are you bullying them? What do you think? Gossip, absolutely. Starting rumors. Gossip leads to rumors. I'm sorry? Avoiding, like giving the silent treatment. Yeah, absolutely. Anything? Sharing someone's private pictures, absolutely, and that's really common. I heard it before. Did I hear cyberbullying? That's where the cyber piece sits, right? So what is cyberbullying? Is there a difference between bullying and cyberbullying? When it's online, like Facebook? Absolutely. So cyberbullying is using technology to bully other people. And today, there are 3 pieces of technology that are trending for bullies to victimize other people. What do you think those 3 pieces of technology are? Cell phones, computers, and computers have lots of stuff, right? We have our tablets, we have our iPhones, and there's lots of social media today that is used. One other piece of technology. Does anybody here play video games? Yeah? Can I see by show of hands who plays video games? Yeah. So often we're playing with people that we know or people that we don't know. And they're purposely killing us on these video games or saying some really bad things in headsets like the one I have on. So that's another piece of technology that's absolutely used to victimize other people. Good. So indirect bullying.
Good. So now that we know what bullying is,
men and women, because there was a police officer involved. There were young children, and some of them were male children. So how can we take that information that nobody really wants to talk about and put it in a framework that we can draw people toward it, they can look at it, they can search their souls about it, and maybe then respond to it. So the result of that question that we put to ourselves is this film. And it's proved to be a very successful tool for community organization. And actually I was at a conference on domestic violence I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe even last week. It's been a busy month for domestic violence. But it was at Ulster Community College, and the head of the police department in Saugerties came up to me and said, I use this as a training video for my rookie cops to sensitize them to this issue. So I think the fact that you're here and the fact that the film has now been seen not by just thousands of people in our area, but people all over the world. I've received emails from Africa, from Asia, from all over the United States, from women who have seen this film and have seen themselves in the characters, not the characters, in the people in the film. So I think we should watch it.
Come all ye fair and tender ladies, take warning how you court your man. They're like a storm on a summer's morning. They first appear, then they're gone.
They'll tell to you some loving story and make you think they love you well, and then they'll go court another, leave you here in grief to dwell.
Well, I wish I was a little sparrow, that I had wings, that I could fly. I'd fly into the arms of my false true lover. When he'd ask, I would deny.
Oh, if I'd known before I courted that love was such a killing thing, I'd locked my heart in a box golden, fasten it up with a silver pin.
For love is handsome and love is charming. Love is pretty when love is new, but love grows cold as love grows older and fades away like the morning dew. So come all ye fair and tender ladies, take warning how you court your man.
We knew each other from the neighborhood. He wasn't particularly handsome, but he loved children and was determined to rise above the poverty that he had grown up in. He worked for the city of New York and was the kind of guy who would scoop up neighborhood kids on his day off and take them to Coney Island or Rockaway Playland for the afternoon. He was charming and well-liked. We fell in love and got married. In the first year of our marriage, he lost his job at the city, and I became pregnant with our first child. Things started going downhill after that. We moved upstate to Ellenville, a community I didn't know, to live in an apartment I had never seen. He had several affairs and didn't come home nights. We had a second daughter. I wasn't working. We were always in debt. I was alone with my two girls most of the time. On that fateful night, all hell broke loose. He came home late at night, broke down my door, and began beating me for what seemed like hours. Thankfully, my girls were asleep, but I was 7.5 months pregnant. I knew that I had to get out.
Oh, so you're in love that's so good for you. Live it up, girl, 'cause it never lasts too long.
Most people can't see the forest for the trees. Life takes its twists and turns, and you know, you're taking a bad twist and it'll get better, and then it doesn't get better, and it doesn't get better, and it doesn't get better. And by the time we realize that it's not getting better, I think we are so ashamed and so embarrassed and feel defeated in so many ways that it's hard for us to say to someone, this is what's happening to me. I knew I had to leave, but I didn't know how. So the next morning, I left my girls with someone and took a bus to the county seat thinking I would go to social services and they would help me. Help is not what I got. I was told by the social worker to go home. She told me that my husband had a good, steady job and that I would have a hard time supporting myself and my children. Discouraged, I went to catch the bus home and found myself in front of family court. I figured, what the heck, and decided to go in. That decision changed my life. I would not have expected to be abused. I would not have thought that if it happened to me that my life would change as it has. I knew that if it did happen, I was going to figure out how to get out sooner rather than later. I met with a very caring probation officer who did my intake for a temporary order of protection and got me in front of the judge immediately. Within a couple of hours, I was on my way home with several copies of my order and instructions to stop at the police department and ask them to escort me home. The police contacted Family of Woodstock, and I spoke to a counselor. The police drove me home, and the counselor met us there. My husband was in the house, and a scene ensued. The police helped me gather my things and my children, and the counselor drove us to Washburn House.
Scared now, what are you scared of? Scared I'm gonna fall on my knees and break down. But I'm not gonna beg you for nothing. I'm not gonna beg you for your love. So you think you can take me for a pretty little ride? I know once upon a time and ever after is a lie. But I'm not gonna beg. I'm not gonna beg. I'm not gonna beg you for nothing at all. There's nothing I want from you. Nothing you can say or do. There's nothing I want for you to say anyway. I'm not gonna beg you for nothing. I'm not gonna beg you for your love.
My name is Kathy Welby Moretti, and I am the director of the Washburn House. In the past 27 years, I have met thousands of women who have suffered mentally and physically at the hands of the men who said they loved them. And I can honestly tell you that they are some of the most courageous women in the world. Domestic violence can happen to anyone, your sister, your neighbor, your boss, or your child's teacher. It does not discriminate by age, race, or sexual orientation, or education level. And every survivor of domestic violence has a different story and a different path to safety and healing. People don't want to know about it. They want to make believe that it doesn't exist, or it doesn't exist in their neighborhood, or it doesn't exist in their family. When I go out and do outreach, a lot of times women in the audience will say, well, it wouldn't be me. I would be out of there the first time he hit me. And I say, think about it. That's not true. Think about everything you have to leave behind.
It's really a choice to become homeless. For almost everyone who comes to our shelters, it's a choice to become homeless and to make their children homeless. Always the victim having to make the hard choices. The victim who did nothing wrong.
If you suddenly had to leave your home tonight, would you be able to go? Could you leave behind everything you own, your clothing, furniture, jewelry, and only take with you what you could carry in one suitcase? Could you abandon your familiar surroundings, your privacy, and your dignity at a moment's notice? And consider this, you would not be able to tell anyone where you were going. Would you be able to go? This is a community problem. This isn't just a family problem. And we as a community, we have a responsibility, especially if there are children in that home. We have a responsibility to get involved.
We recognize that domestic violence is a crime, and if you're going to say it's a crime, it's the same kind of crime as if it's done between strangers. So there's not an option anymore to say, oh, buddy, just go walk it off. They need to arrest somebody. What I have seen is that many, many times it's that arrest that is a rude awakening to the offender that, hey, I'm not in charge here anymore.
The first time this horrible thing happens or this coercion happens in this dynamic and she doesn't leave, she can't leave, and she's staying out of hope, love, loyalty, need, children, I think that in some ways is mistaken and used as a manipulation to kind of to keep the cycle going. And it starts off really subtle, and it doesn't have to be this overt slap across the face. It's this manipulation of love.
So warm and insightful. Were you in my eyes? And I was sure the rightful guardian of my life. Damn, you betrayer, how you lied. But for 7 years you
My name is Teresa Letirio, and I'm here to speak to you about my aunt, Tracy Lee Ingracia Pizarro, who was murdered in her home by her husband in front of their 2 children on September 26, 2007. Soon it will be 6 years since my mother lost her younger sibling and best friend. 6 years since my cousins had their mother taken from them by their father, the man who was supposed to love and protect them. Tracy's husband's controlling behavior was there from the beginning. He demeaned her weight, her intelligence, and her worth. He tried to isolate her from her family and friends and restricted her access to money. But over the years, his need to control escalated to episodes of violence. For quite some time, my beautiful, vibrant aunt was reduced to a mental and emotional disaster, physically ill from stress. Eventually, she began to crawl out of that emotional black hole to see Anthony for the person that he really was. Someone without the ability to care for her and their children. Someone only interested in drugs, alcohol, and dictating her every move, controlling her with threats and intimidation. A lot of intimidation. He pulled a gun to her head in front of her 3-month-old child, and I begged her not to take him back, but she did, because she wanted a family, and I think that's where a lot of women get confused, and they feel like they're helping. They want to save this person. They love this person. The problem with that is they sacrifice themselves, because it doesn't stop, and it doesn't change. It's just a matter of time before the end comes. On that beautiful September morning, as Tracy readied her children for school, a conversation with her husband sparked such a rage in him that he unlocked the safe and pulled out an assault rifle. Tracy grabbed the phone and ran from the bedroom, closing the door behind her, intent on calling 911. Before she could dial, Anthony shot through the door. The bullet hit her in her upper right arm. The impact spun Tracy around, and she ran down the hall. But there was no escape. Anthony kept all the doors locked from the inside, and he was the only one with a key. The second shot Anthony fired grazed the top of Tracy's head. The third bullet missed her, but nearly hit her son, who took cover in the bathroom. Their 5-year-old daughter hid under her bed when she saw her father pass down the hallway. The fourth bullet fired hit Tracy in the middle of her spine. This was the bullet that sent her to the floor, paralyzed. Anthony stalked down the hallway, repositioned himself, and aimed for the back of her head. The fifth and final bullet went through the back of Tracy's neck and fragmented. Her death certificate stated that she bled out in 2 minutes. I've become numb, but you build up this wall that can't be broken because of all the pain. And you just learn to live with it day by day. You don't forget, you don't really recover, but you try to bring light to others so that they don't have to go through the same thing. My Aunt Tracy was a vibrant 37-year-old woman. She adored her nieces and nephews and doted on her children and had a soft spot for animals. She had a laugh like Betty Rubbles from the Flintstones. She made everyone around her feel welcome and loved. In part, that wonderful, loving nature didn't allow Tracy to seek the help she so desperately needed. The members of my family have spent 6 years trying to understand how Tracy's life ended so brutally at the hands of the same man she spent 21 years with in marriage. What if she had been able to leave? Would Tracy be alive today?
As we drive to work, bring our children to school, and go about our daily lives, we pass by homes in our county where horrors occur that we will never know, where children witness violence, endure abuse, and learn behaviors that doom them to repeat the same cycles. The children growing up in these homes hold secrets that you would never know just by looking at them.
Domestic violence shelters serve thousands of children in our community. They are the silent witnesses to unbearable secrets from homeland war zones.
Maria de la Paz Alvarez was stabbed to death by her boyfriend, Gabriel Perez, while her children witnessed. Her 2 little girls were traumatized and orphaned in this country, far from their native land and their family.
They blame themselves. They try to protect their parents during violent episodes. They hide in fear that someone might find out, or afraid that no one ever will know how to help.
Byron Allen shot and killed his wife, Juanita Allen, while their children watched. He left, returning immediately to shoot and wound their daughter in front of her 2 sisters.
They never know what triggers a violent event, so they live in fear for their mothers, their siblings, for their pets, and for themselves.
After Lee Welsh killed his wife, Jessica Welsh, he then killed Detective John Falcone, and then himself, while his 3-year-old daughter watched. After her mother's murder and her father's suicide, little Forever Welsh was left alone in the city of Poughkeepsie in the hands of strangers who then had to determine her identity.
With one parent consumed by fear and the other one consumed with the need to control, these children are physically, emotionally, and psychologically abandoned. In our country, they number in the millions. In our county, there are thousands hanging in the balance.
My father was an alcoholic and beat my mom until she had had enough. I was 16 when she had him removed from the house for good. But I grew up with the police coming and taking him, and then he would be back, apologizing. I couldn't go through that, or put my children through that.
At 3 months of age, Reese Tate was brutally beaten by her own father, William Tate.
I remember thinking, this man is going to kill me in front of my children. I was terrified. In that moment, I made a pact with God that if I were to survive, I would never go back.
These are the wounds that impact a lifetime and cycle through generations.
Tracy's son is now a teenager, and her daughter is approaching middle school. They live with my mother, and they both do well in school. To look at them, anyone would think they are happy, well-adjusted children. They are beautiful, intelligent, and funny. However, there is tangible sadness that exists in them on every joyous occasion. For Tracy's daughter, her birthday is forever a reminder of her mother's violent death.
I stand here today as the Acting Executive Director of the New York State Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence. Thank you. So much has changed since 1983, when I myself was a victim of domestic violence. Today, my husband would be arrested and charged with a family offense if police witnessed his violent behavior. With new laws and procedures in place, their hands are no longer tied. Attitudes are evolving. Knowledge of domestic violence shelters is more prevalent. Victims of abuse now know that there are options available for them. We have certainly come a long way, but there is still so much to do. 1 in every 3 women worldwide has been beaten, coerced into sex, or otherwise abused during her lifetime. Most often, the abuser is a member of her own family. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women in the USA. Every day in the US, more than 3 women are murdered by their husbands or boyfriends. Nearly 1 in 5 American teenage girls claim that a boyfriend threatened violence when presented with a breakup. Shelters can help, but they are only the beginning. Housing, employment, and welcoming communities are still needed to truly assist families fleeing abuse. They need our help to heal and rebuild their lives. We need to teach our children how to create mutually respectful, loving, supportive relationships and bond within their intimate partnerships and families so that they can live in safe, secure, and peaceful homes. The domestic violence movement started with families, with women opening their homes and their hearts to help each other. Tonight, we ask that you continue that tradition by making ending violence against women and children in this community, your mission.
Kathy and Teresa, Gwen, Renee, Liz, and Marjorie Smith. These are the guardian angels of the Hudson Valley. These are incredible women. They are my new heroines.
On its bad days, this job really is the worst. But on its good days, when you help somebody, when you see that it has made a difference, there's just not a reward for that. It's good work.
In order to get involved, you have to know what is actually going on out there. And so I'm hoping that this event will raise that awareness.
Talking to women and getting involved helps me help my aunt in a way that I couldn't when she was still alive.
There's no price that you can put on peace. When a woman gets her own place and she has that peace, those are the things that make our day.
Our kids come into the program literally bruised and battered, and to see the progress they make, that's enormously rewarding, and I'm so hopeful when I see that.
This is the first generation of men standing up against violence against women. I have a 30-year-old son. I look at his life and how different his life is from that of his father and that of my father.
You've been so kind and generous. I don't know how you keep on giving. And for your kindness, I'm in debt to you. And I never could have come this far without you. Doesn't it feel good to sing a happy song? And for everything you've done. But you went to the valley, you went down in the valley with me, and I respect and love you for that. To thank you for it. La 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 people downcast in despair, see the disillusion everywhere, hoping that bad luck will change. Gets a little harder every day. People struggle, people fight for the simple pleasures in their lives. Trouble comes from everywhere, and it's a little more than you can bear. I know that it will hurt. I know that it will hurt. Well, I know that it will break your heart. The way things are and the way they've been. See the push and the shove of every board. When I my eyes on their minds, you can read about it in their eyes. Yeah. People ruthless, people cruel, the damage that some people do, full of hatred, full of pride, and it's enough to make you lose your mind. Discontent, don't spread the lies. Don't make the same mistakes with your own life.
I can see there's probably a lot of emotions in the room after watching this film. It's a really powerful film, huh? Yeah. I know that sometimes I hear that after people watch these types of films, or the TV that we watch, the music that we listen to is so full of violence, and it often makes people lose this hope. And I want people to know that spreading awareness, right? Doing these workshops, intervention, changing those behaviors, changing thinking patterns can really prove and change our environment and our kids and change the cycle. So that's why the next part of our evening is really going to be focusing on intimate partner violence. The people that you're dating, the people that you're married to. 1 in 4 adult women will be in this type of unhealthy relationship. And 1 in 3 teens will be in an unhealthy relationship. And I also like to point out that abuse, unhealthy relationships, violence in relationships does not discriminate. It comes across any age, any gender, and any social economic status. I often hear when I talk about domestic violence with my peers that they say, oh, this is violence against women, really singling out men. And I think that's so unfair because violence does come across in any type of relationship, whether it's a same-sex relationship, whether it's a woman who can be an abuser in a situation, or a man. And I think that's really important to point out because research shows that, especially in our teens. So when we talk about abuse, intimate partner violence, it's all about power and control over your partner. It's a pattern, and it's intentional, and it only escalates as the relationship continues. So when we go into classrooms, we talk about abuse and what that looks like, and the forms that it can take so that students can see the red flags and the warning signs in relationships for themselves and the people that they know. So, as I'm sure you can see, the trend of Maxine and I is to get people involved and participate. So, I'm going to ask you what you think the 4 forms of abuse are. What do you think they are? Sexual. Emotional. Mental, emotional, right? Hurting our feelings, absolutely. Physical. Psychological, mental, emotional, right? Our feelings, doing to purposely hurt you. One more. Verbal.
Yeah.
She's giving it away.
So this first form of verbal, using our words, what are some examples of verbal abuse? Yeah, put downs, name calling, right? Anything else? Sarcasm. Threats. If you don't do this, I'm going to do this to you, right? Exactly. So it's maybe our tone of voice. So maybe I'm yelling and I'm screaming at you and I'm threatening you and I'm putting you down, saying that you're worthless or maybe that you're stupid, right? And we might be very confident people, but when we're in relationships with people, we have that sense of vulnerability. So when your partner, someone that you love, is telling you put downs every single day, probably by the 10th time, you start to believe it, no matter how confident of a person you are. Verbal, using our words.
Emotional. How your partner purposely tries to hurt you. What are some things that your partner could do to purposely hurt you? Lying. Absolutely. Cheat. Absolutely. I imagine that would really hurt bad. Isolation. What does that look like in a relationship? Absolutely. So when we hear this word isolation, we always think of people alone, right? But when you're in a relationship, it's purpose. And it's the one that's in every unhealthy relationship, and it's the one that's so hard to see because it looks so good. In the beginning of the relationship, the partner is really saying to you, I want to spend a lot of one-on-one time with you, and maybe you're pulling back from your friends, and you're pulling back from your family, and that's on purpose. Maybe 6 months go by, and you've only seen your partner. You're shutting your cell phone off so that he's telling you or she's telling you, I just want to hear you. And to you, you're like, wow, this person really likes me. They want to hear me. They want to spend time with me. Alone time is important in a relationship. So it looks really good in the beginning. But think about it. If somebody was in your life and they were ditching you for 6 months, would you still be in their life? At that time, you realize, wait, something's wrong. This isn't right. You get that feeling in your gut that this relationship maybe doesn't feel right. You don't have that support system anymore. And that's why a lot of women and families come to our shelters because they lost their support system along the way of this abusive relationship. So isolation. Another one that's so common, especially with teens, is stalking. So stalking used to be, if you really wanted to know where somebody was at all times of the day, you had to be that weird, creepy person in a disguise following them. And now, with technology, things have changed. People are calling you at all hours of the day, morning, all the way through your bedtime. They're checking in every 2 seconds to find out who you're with, where you are, and what you're doing. They're looking at your cell phone. You're trading passwords, Facebook passwords, email passwords. And at the beginning, you're like, really? I don't know about that. And maybe your partner's saying, well, why? What do you have to hide that you don't want me to see? And it's almost manipulating you into doing things that maybe you don't want to do. And that's so common. I was talking to a teen the other day who told me that, I don't understand how my girlfriend always knows what's going on with my social media and my text messages and my emails. And I was like, oh, do you mind if I just check something on your phone? And he had an app in his phone so that it was kind of like the other person could see everything that woman was doing on her phone, who she was texting, what emails she was reading, and who she was calling. That's scary. So stalking.
So physical, touching another person, using our hands and feet. What are some examples of this? Okay, so I'm hearing throwing things. So maybe I take this chair and throw it out the window. And how might you feel? You might feel scared. You might even feel intimidated. And you might even think that if I could throw this chair out the window, maybe I could throw you out the window, right? Intimidation and using objects. And then you mentioned choking and strangling, right? Purposely holding someone's air supply, and that it's illegal. A lot of things that we hear from young teens expressing is this blocking piece. So maybe we get in this heated argument, right? And it escalates very quickly. And I'm trying to get out that door. And you purposely have your hands on that door and don't allow me to leave. Blocking. This is something that we hear in almost every teen relationship.
So last but not least, sexual. When you hear the word sexual abuse, what is the first thing you think about? Rape. And what is rape? Forced sex without consent is saying yes. The absence of a no doesn't mean yes. I often go into classrooms and I say what I'm about to say to you, and it's very skewed on. I hear lots of yeses and nos, so I'm curious to what you guys have to say. Is it possible to rape your girlfriend or boyfriend? Yes. Is it possible to rape your husband or wife? Well, I'm glad that it's clear in this room, but a lot of rooms that I go in and I ask the same question to, probably 1,000,000 times, I often hear, no, you can't rape your girlfriend or boyfriend. You can't rape your husband or wife. And it's often that you think that there's this line or hidden rule that says that because you're with this person or because you've had sex with them before, you have to have sex when that person wants to. The fact is you have to engage in saying yes every single time that you engage in the act of sex. And not every person that I've met in my life knows that, and I think that's really important to a message to get across. And what else when you think about sexual abuse? Always just about sex? Touching, absolutely, unwanted touching. Could be as simple as holding hands. If your partner's asking you to hold your hand and I say no, do I have to hold that person's hand? And knowing that. Absolutely. Anything else? Protection? Rejection. Tell me more. Yeah, some controlling, making, or taking away of sex. Absolutely. Protection. Not allowing or making them use protection. Absolutely. What is the big thing right now with teens? Sexting. And maybe that too. So what is sexting? Yeah, Maybe it's comments, explicit comments, maybe it's sexual explicit pictures. And so if you're under the age of 18 and you are sending or receiving nudes or revealing pictures, are there consequences? Yes. What are they? Everyone's going to know your business. Absolutely. What else? Are there legal consequences? Absolutely. So if you are sending or receiving these types of pictures, and find out, right, often teens, 67% of teens who get sent a nude picture share it with their friends, which is a lot, right? Like half your school has seen you in that picture. So if you are sending or receiving these pictures, you can be in possession or distribution of child pornography. You get caught, you could have to register as a sex offender for the rest of your life. Yeah, so that's super important to know as well. And we're using our phones lots of different things, and everybody can see what we're doing on our phones nowadays. And we click and say yes and agree to all these social media apps because we want to use them. Because they're 30 pages and we don't want to read them, we just want to get on and use that app. But a lot of those words that we don't read say whatever you put out there is now they can distribute and use that information as they see fit. And that's important to know. So when you think about all these terrible things that we're talking about, I think that it's important to know that it's a cycle, right? And that there is going to be conflict in relationships. And it's how you deal with that conflict that determines what type of relationship that you're in. It's about compromise. It's about equality. It's about respecting your partner, where you both come up with solutions to problems. And it's not their way or the highway. And that's important. And maybe it starts when you're young and you're seeing this violence in your home and you're bringing it into schools. And then you think that's okay because nobody has intervened or showed you or modeled other behavior. So you continue that behavior beyond that into dating and then maybe even to marriage. So how can we break this cycle? Research says that education, change behavior, change thinking. What else? What else can we do as a community? I know that I've seen lots of people in this room that support this and spread this word, spread this education, spread this awareness, and I know that how hard is it to be that person in a group, to be the only person to say, this isn't okay. What else can we do? Listen. Absolutely. Don't judge. Report it to who? Maybe authorities, yeah. Education, awareness is really important. And for parents, modeling that behavior for your teens is so important. And talking to them, knowing what's going on in their life. Spending that 15 minutes a day to talk about, and for them to already have this in their head that these conversations are natural and normal in your home. That's really important. I know that a lot of people, when I say teen dating violence, they think there's no way that a young person can be in this type of relationship. And I see and work with these teens all the time. And it's so different for them maybe than the marital home. I know a teen who's 15 years old who disclosed to me, I do a group with her and a few others every week, and I said, what happened to your head? She had a big bruise on her head, and she got hit with a pipe. And I said, how did that happen? And she was telling me about this abusive relationship that she was in. Every morning, her partner would text her and tell her what she could wear. She had stipulations. If she did not text back within 2 minutes or pick up the phone when they were calling, that they were going to go to school and tell other people really terrible things about her that I won't share. And this was so real for her, and all these different things that we were just talking about. And I said, well, have you thought about talking to your parents? Am I the first person you told? And she said, yeah. But I can't talk to my parents because this control is in my home. And if I go and talk to somebody, I know my family's going to find out, and then they're going to try to control me even more than they have already my whole life. So between this partner and this family, she's completely controlled and doesn't see a way out and doesn't know what to do. And that's hard. So I've talked to her, and we talk a lot about thinking of new behaviors and changing that for her so that she can break the cycle for her family. So I'd also like to invite Senator Gipson up here now, because what we're going to do is we're going to be giving 2 awards out to the people in our community that use their voice to stand up for this type of violence. And the first people that I would like to on the stage are Peter, Wendy, and Jesse Marr. This first award is touches home for me, Maxine and I, because we had Jesse in a classroom one afternoon, and we did a bullying workshop with him. And he went home and felt really empowered and told his parents about what he had learned at school that day. And that's how Wendy and Peter had gotten connected with Renee Fillette, our executive director. And they are people that, you know, behind the scenes, we never know what happens after we leave the classroom, and this is just an example that this student learned this education in their home, and now they use their awesomeness in the community to bring it out to us. And I just want to thank you so much for being so great to our program and supporting everything that we do.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can you hit my word? Cool. And the next person that we would like to give our next award to who has made such a difference in our community is Superintendent Dr. Rychik. And from the beginning, the Hyde Park Central School District has been such a wonderful support to us in a variety of different ways. So this was one of the first districts that we were ever in as a prevention program. And they supported us in so many different ways, from having us in their health classes to talk about teen dating violence and bullying, and then also having their students come to our first Love Shouldn't Hurt conference. Then their middle school students came to our first Connect for Respect Leadership Institute. And for us as educators, we were just so thrilled to have this district support us in a variety of different ways. And I want to give this award to Dr. Rychik. Thank you.
It's an unusual thing to win an award for this topic, and really the award is for awareness, and it is our duty and responsibility to raise awareness on this topic. 3 years ago, we had a student who dialed 911 because her father shot her mother in front of her and her 2 sisters. While the police were arriving, her mother was still alive. The father then shot the mother again and killed her as the police were approaching. He then left the room through the back door as the police were entering the house, and he shot himself. So the 2 students who attended FDR witnessed the murder of their mother, the suicide of their father. The students were then taken to a location where they could recover. And the one student returned to our school. And upon returning to FDR High School, she approached the building principal, and one of her first requests was, "Can I start a domestic violence awareness club?" And the answer was yes. Thank you very much.
Get you. Thank you so much, and I'm extremely humbled by this award, and I want to thank the Grace Smith House and these young folks for what they're doing and breaking the cycle. It's just incredibly important to get a handle on this. with these young people and, like you say, breaking the cycle very young. As I heard the other day, we would really like to put the Grace Smith House out of business at some point. Thank you.
Congratulations again to Hyde Park Central School District and the Marr family in regards to your support of our program and the commitment of prevention education in our county. Before we conclude the program tonight, there are a few things I would like to remind you about. As our Executive Director, Renee Fillette, mentioned earlier, we do have counselors present in room 174 for any needs, questions, or concerns you may have about the presentation on tonight in pertaining to bullying, intimate partner relationship violence, and cyberbullying. Furthermore, following the conclusion of this program, the prevention team, which includes Christina and Maxine, which you just saw, and myself, will all be here on this stage to answer any questions from any parent, administrator, community member, anything you may have about bullying, cyberbullying, and teen dating violence. We are here to help. We love doing community outreach, and we are more than willing to answer anything that you may have to bring to us on tonight. So feel free to come to us after the conclusion. Additionally, some of you saw, we have 2 tables right outside of the auditorium with students from Grace Smith House Peace Group and also volunteers from FDR High School. What's great about these tables is that they focus on bullying, cyberbullying, and domestic violence, and they include a lot of literature that parents, teachers, administrators, and community members can bring back to their communities and their families. It's very important that you have the literature and the information, whether you were wondering, what kind of app is that can track what my child is doing? Or what should I be looking at? What red flags should I notice? We have all of that literature for you to bring back home. We even have Grace Smith House swag items, as the kids like to say now, that have our Grace Smith House contact information, including our hotline number. Finally, tonight, you were presented with a lot of information in pertaining to bullying, intimate partner relationship violence, and cyberbullying. For some, this may have been your first time being exposed to this information. To others, maybe not. When we talk about these subjects, I'm sure many of us were thinking throughout this presentation about someone in your life that you may believe that may be in an intimate partner relationship, or is worried about someone, or knows someone that has experienced bullying. We encourage you to share the information that you received tonight. Spread the awareness, including our Grace Smith House 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline number to anyone that you feel may need help. Our hotline number is 845-471-3033. Once again, our hotline number is 845-471-3033, and it is private. You'll be able to talk to a professional you can trust and get the help for yourself or someone that you think needs assistance. This is a very useful tool. And we also will have information out at our tables with our phone numbers just in case you may have not caught it. You can also find additional information about Grace Smith House on our website, which is gracesmithhouse.org, as well as our Facebook page, Grace Smith House, Inc. I encourage you to utilize this information you were given tonight and share it with others and help us stand up against domestic violence, teen dating violence, bullying, and cyberbullying. It starts with the community, and you guys have showed that you are the leaders here in Dutchess County, and you believe in standing up and supporting the cause. Because with your help, you can be the change, and you can reduce the risk of bullying and intimate partner relationship violence and keep our community safe. Thank you, and have a good night.
You've been so kind generous. I don't know how you keep on giving, and for your kindness I'm in debt to you. And I never could have come this far without you. Doesn't it feel good to sing a happy song? And for everything you've done. But you went to the valley, you went down in the valley with me, and I respect and love you for that. To thank you for it. La 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 people downcast in despair see the disillusion everywhere, hoping that bad luck will change. Gets a little harder every day. People struggle, people fight for the simple pleasures in their lives. Trouble comes from everywhere, and it's a little more than you can bear.